Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's edition of the Squatchable podcast, where we take a look at the week in Bigfoot news. Joining me from the Fortean Slip is Chris York. Chris, how are you?
Wonderful.
Fantastic. And not joining us again this week is Phil Pulling of Power Breakdown. I'm afraid he's out sick today. But if you enjoy Power Breakdown or the Fortean Slip, you might enjoy the badly drawn misadventures of two Bigfoot. So head on over to Bigfooting with Keith N Collin. The link is in the description. And without further ado, I am your host, Richard Allen, and let's just jump into it. Our first story, as always, we have the running joke of an update to a Bigfoot conference. The Pennsylvania Bigfoot camping adventure has finalized
Wait, another one?
This is a update on a previous conference that was covered.
Oh, so not a new one.
Not a new one, no, but they've released some updates about guest speakers. Apparently, Cliff Barackman will definitely be there. They finalized T-shirt designs, and they've said absolutely for sure there will be a Yeti howling competition. So it's May 31st to June the 2nd in Farmington, Pennsylvania. There are only 52 tickets left, so if you intend on going, head on over there. Yeah, well, it's a Bigfoot conference. Have fun. So with that, we'll move on to our next story, a rather enjoyable article written by a Bigfoot believer called Mark Johnson, no relation. He watched The Legend of Boggy Creek in 1972 and became fascinated with the legend of Bigfoot. He had a supposed sighting when he was 9. He wrote his senior term paper on Bigfoot and got an A-. He admits that he's predisposed to believing in things like UFOs and the Loch Ness Monster. He points out that mankind does not know everything and encourages people to keep on believing in Bigfoot, and hopefully one day it will be discovered. Chris, did you have a chance to read that one?
Yeah, I looked over it. It's a very hopeful outlook.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, there are some instances where when you just question someone's evidence or what's been presented, it's considered an attack on someone in the quote unquote Bigfoot community. And I disagree with that, that those things are not attacks. If you're looking for credible evidence and you find flaws with someone's evidence, then I think those should be addressed. But his hopeful outlook, we all want to believe.
Yep.
So, I get that. He has an optimistic outlook, and that's, that's great. But, having an optimistic outlook doesn't put true researchers in the field.
No.
Ultimately. But, it's people like that have that optimistic outlook. If they go out there and they do those things, the proper things, then, maybe something will come of it.
Yeah, I agree completely with that. It's nice to have hopeful people that aren't always pointing out the negative aspects of stuff. And, it's a good article. The link is in the description. I encourage you all to go and give it a read. Moving on, we have what I thought would be an article about the Yeren, but turned out to be sponsored content about traveling to China. But there was an interesting sighting report about the Shenong Geoforestry District in the Hubei province of China. The land is covered by vast primeval forest, nurturing countless species of plants and animals, as well as legends and stories that have been passed down through the ages. In 1956, a 12-year-old girl named Wang Kongmai said she encountered a human-shaped animal on her way home. Her mother and neighbors heard her scream and rushed out and killed the animal and sent its limbs off for scientific research. A specimen of the limbs was displayed in a local high school. However, 3 decades later, an analysis of the specimen showed it to be the limbs of a short-tailed monkey. There are tales of the Yeren abound. One man was said to be a hybrid of a human and a Yeren. The man, who was in his 30s in the 1980s, had a collarbone similar to gorilla and exhibited ape-like behavior. Villagers claimed that his mother had been abducted by a Yeren before the child was conceived. Further study, however, showed that the man was actually 100% human and suffered from microcephaly. a medical condition where the brain doesn't develop properly, resulting in a smaller than normal head. For Yeren searchers, the Banibian forest is a favorite hunting ground because that's where suspicious footprints, droppings, and hair have been discovered, though none have ever been confirmed to be from an unknown species. Even if a Yeren search is unsuccessful, a visit to the forest is never disappointing. The karst landscape forms grotesque stone pillars that seem to grow from the mountains into the sky. Visitors can walk around the stones and observe the patterns and just take in the wildlife and vistic scenery. Chris, did you have a chance to read that article?
That one I didn't. It was really, that was the really long one, right?
Yeah, it was really long. It was sponsored
Yeah.
content about traveling to China.
Yeah. It, I'm not a big fan of going to China myself. But I'm sure it'd be fun if people want to go there and search for Bigfoot.
Yep. Or the Yeren, as it's called over there.
Yeah, they have different names everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of interesting things over in China. So just the one that jumps out at me, it's not Bigfoot related, is the fact that there's pyramids that seem to be there, but they don't let anybody go near them. So, I'm sure there's all kinds of interesting stuff there.
Oh yeah, China's got a very, very rich history and culture. It's definitely worth looking into. But Bigfoot wise, does a Yeren exist? I don't know.
No way. I mean, we question things, Richard.
We do.
That's not a bad thing.
No, it's nice to have a skeptical mind, but be a little optimistic about it all.
Yeah.
So moving on to our next story. This one I would have thought would be specially interest to you. It is the 2-hour presentation from David Hatcher Childress about the mystery of giant Sasquatch Yetis. Beginning with the subject of giants, and then begins a lengthy discussion about Bigfoot and Sasquatch with tons of photos and maps. There's a very clear Bigfoot picture, plus other amazing photos of Bigfoot and Sasquatch that you have never seen before. Well, there were some new ones during the presentation. David also discusses Yetis and the abominable snowmen of Tibet and the Himalayas. David discusses why the archaeological establishment would want to cover up evidence for giants and why dead bodies of Bigfoot are never reported, and then answers some questions from the audience. A fast-paced and visual presentation. It was filmed at the Phoenix MUFON conference in 2016. And it is a very informative presentation. I encourage everyone that's got 2 hours spare to give it a listen. Did you skim it?
Yeah, I mean, Childress is Childress.
Yeah,
he's entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
I've if anyone listens to my show, the Fortean Slip, which is uncensored, by the way, I make reference to him all the time, and to the fact that I love Ancient Aliens as a show, not for the alien aspect of it, but the ancient civilizations, and the cast of characters are, to me, are great. And Childress, he just stands out to me. So, I'll definitely go back and give it a full watch. Check it out because it's a long video.
Yeah, it's 2 hours long.
Yeah. So.
Yep. But he goes into detail. I wouldn't say that, he's presenting information dishonestly. He's just presenting the facts. He's not putting his own spin on it. He just gives in the facts. The astonishing clear Bigfoot one is very dubious, though, from my point of view. It could be Bigfoot. More likely not, though.
And that's generally the case with those things.
That's true. That's very true. But finally, from our story, we have Bigfoot Tony, who is another person, along as the conferences that I like to feature on this show, as I'm quite a fan of his work. It was a response to Thinker Thunker's video, which we covered last week on this podcast. It's 18 minutes long, and he is not happy with Thinker Thunker's analysis of the frozen log video. Last week, for those of you who watched Thinker Thunker's video, you'll remember that he challenged the skeptics to prove him wrong about his analysis, which Bigfoot Tony does with gusto. He points out that the video in question is only 360p, which is a very low resolution to do a breakdown in. Bigfoot Tony enhanced the video as much as he can. He points out a cloud of sawdust that seems to come up as the tree goes down from the machine. He says that the sun reflects on the machine's surface. Points out that Thinker Thunker doesn't mention the timbered logs already felled and processed, videoed in the video. He points out that there's laughter in the background. He thinks it's a prank video. He points out the tree is moved uphill and then falls sideways, as if something's lifting it out of the ground and then drop it. Thinker Thunker also has several edits and cuts in his breakdown video, and Bigfoot Tony believes it to be false and feels that he has revealed enough evidence through the video to prove that. Did you have a chance to watch that?
Yeah, I tend to like Bigfoot Tony. I think he's pretty thorough. He's a little long.
He is a bit long-winded,
but very thorough. And I agree with what he said. And you can definitely see the light reflecting off of it. I had not noticed the sawdust before in any of the breakdowns that I'd seen, but it definitely looks like, to me, like it's a tree harvester.
Oh yeah. I would agree completely that it was machinery. I mean, you can hear with the sound on the video that there's machinery working on. The cloud of sawdust, that just seems to be a bit of the Emperor's new clothes to me. I mean, I couldn't see it, and now I only see it because he said it's there. So I'm not entirely sure if I'll buy the cloud of sawdust, but everything else, I agree completely with Bigfoot Tony on. All right, that wraps up our stories. Matt Knapp, I believe, is still wanting to hear from you if you've got a sighting report about Bigfoot. If you have seen Bigfoot or know someone has seen Bigfoot, get in touch with Matt Knapp at his Gmail account.
BigfootCrossroads@gmail.com.
Right on. And that is, so get in touch with him. And finally, from the Fortean Slip, the Fortean Slip t-shirts are still on sale.
Yeah, 9 more days.
9 more days.
9 more days. We've already fulfilled the minimum amount for the order to go through, so they will ship now. But if anybody wants a shirt, grab one. It'd be greatly appreciated. Give some support to the Fortean Slip.
And that wraps us up for this week, unless you have final thoughts, Chris.
No, I'm good this week.
No, I'm good. Well, it's good night from me, and it's good night from him. Good night.
Good night.